So, good morning or good night, depending on where you are in the world. And welcome to another interview of the Shield Dude on a Couch. Tonight, I have from the band Nite in San Francisco, I have Patrick Crawford, the mighty drummer from this Blackened heavy metal band from San Francisco, who just released their third album, if I'm not mistaken, this Friday, and it's called Cult of the Serpent Sun. So first of all, Patrick, how are you, man?
I'm doing good, man. It's our big release day. We've been talking about this and preparing for this for what seems like years, and the months that leading up to a release are always hectic and busy, but it's been great. The response from the first three singles that we released and the first video have been amazing, and we are just thrilled to have the album out there in the world and have
Yeah,
people actually hearing the whole thing. Yeah.
yeah, it's 8 tracks and it's like 36 minutes. So I remember the band because I remember when your last album came out, which I think it was in 2022. I
Correct.
listened to it, but at that time I didn't have yet my channel. But when I saw the promo, I'm like, oh, I remember listening to your last album from this band,
Cool.
and
Yeah, yeah.
it says Blackened, like, but like there's like a like classic heavy metal style, and I feel like it's all not gloom and doom on this record. For example, I saw like Carry On, the sixth track on this record. It sounds like very hopeful, which black metal is not often like considered
Yeah.
hopeful. So yeah, that's a good track. Carry On.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think the goal with the band and the thing that we focus on and sort of refer back to when we're talking about demoing or, writing new stuff, lyrical content, we're all about contrast as a band. So the whole premise of the band relies on this idea that we're a kind of like 70s, 80s proto metal, heavy metal. People call us retro, but whatever the fuck that means. We are big fans of 80s heavy metal, that big bombastic, flamboyant, like just energetic heavy metal, classic heavy metal style. But we have these blackened vocals over
Yeah,
top. So already there's that contrast. And we're always sort of talking about how do we live up to that sort of idea that everything is about contrast. So there's some dark themed and darker sounding tracks on the album, and then yeah, to your point, a song like Carry On has maybe a more hopeful undertone, and then the last song, Winds of Sokar, we tried to make something more grand and epic to leave people sort of not feeling so defeated. We want to be, like a light in the darkness, but that doesn't mean we don't explore the darkness. We try to do both.
yeah, no. Especially then you have a song called Skull, where it sounds all like crushing skulls. So you have the contrast thing, like you have Carry On, then you have a song like Skull. But I get like the 70s, and I don't know. I think like people, like young people say retro. I don't know if they're insulting us. Are you calling?
It could be synonymous with old. I don't get offended by it. I just feel like it's a bit of a lazy term. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I feel like people
well,
say retro. Retro can mean so many things. Like, you can say retro, but tell me what you're talking about, right? Like, do you mean Rainbow retro or Deep Purple retro? Or do you mean Ozzy Osbourne retro or Black Sabbath retro? Like, there's different like degrees of retro. So like I just feel like it's a little bit lazy. People can be a little more specific when they say retro. That's all.
yeah. I think it has like a 70s sound with some 80s and 90s to it.
Totally.
With
For
more
sure.
more specific. But yeah, when they say like retro or I don't know, I have nieces and they have like very unique insults. Like one niece told me one day, "You're not alpha." I'm like, "What the? you how
Wow.
you're so not the sigma?" I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about?"
Wow. I've never heard that. Wow. I'm too old to know what that means. I'm too retro to know what that
Yeah.
means.
If someone calls you like Patrick, you're not sigma. I'm like, what? Like what the hell does that mean?
I will wait till I see my niece later this month so she can insult me with that term. Yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah, no, when my niece insulted me like that, she's like, you're not Sigma. I was like, well, you're not Alpha Pi or, or whatever. Like,
Wow, dude. It's a whole new
but
universe.
but the retro figure, yeah, I agree with you. It's like kind of lazy. Just explain what it sounds like because you have the
Totally.
black heavy metal vocals with like a more like a 70s like rock band, like early 80s, like uh it's like a mixture of like Venom vocals with
Mhm.
more like classic heavy metal.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah,
I mean, and for us, like we all grew up on that sort of like early 80s to like mid 90s, kind of span of music that didn't really have such defined genres. It's only now because there's so much music that people want to get into subgenres and like the highly specific genre, but it's like, you know, Venom were a heavy metal band. Merciful
yeah,
Fate were a heavy metal band. Metallica were a heavy metal band. Like it just was all called heavy metal. So I think for us, what's important is like we want to play what we think of as heavy metal. And if people want to call it blackened or like retro, I mean, whatever, that's fine. We can't do
yeah.
anything about
After the 90s, especially the 2000s, like so many labels were because when I was growing up, I just called it like or heavy metal
that.
or like a rock alternative band. That
Yeah,
was it. And then they started with all those subgenres, and I started getting progressive stuff, and I started
yeah.
getting confused. But nowadays, people actually like young people say that actually the 90s are oldies.
Are we it's just this whole interview is gonna just be about how old we are, huh? Like
No, no,
you know what's funny though? We talk about this a lot because so Van, myself, and Scott, our other lead guitarist, are all in our mid to late 40s, and our bassist Avinash is young. We call him the kid because he just turned, I think he just turned 32 this
oh,
month. So he's like a baby compared to us. But even him, he's got friends who are like in their mid 20s. So he's like, I feel old. And I'm like, dude, like it's just, but it to us, it's like, we joke about it, but it's like, it doesn't really matter. Like what's more important is like, do you have a good perspective? Are you a good musician? Do you get it? And like he might be quite a bit younger than us, but he gets it. Like he's a fucking great musician and he's like just a one of the most knowledgeable music historians that I've ever dealt with. Like really, really good dude. Knows his stuff.
yeah, that's awesome. Plus, you guys are from San Francisco, which is a very cool town for music. You know, so many great
Yep.
bands come and
Yeah.
have San Francisco. Uh, some of you are pissed off, and I'm guessing that's because housing is so not affordable down there.
Yes. We we are all struggling to remain here. We make it work, but yeah, it's a challenging place to live. Musically, it's really interesting for us to feel like we're a part of this like lineage of like, Bay Area thrash that obviously started like 40 now years ago, but like a lot of those people that were even part of that original movement are still around, and some of those bands, like the Death Angels or the Exoduses or like those people that are kind of like the founders of what became known as the Bay Area thrash sound are still here and still relevant and still making music, which I think is amazing. We're not obviously a thrash band, but we see ourselves as part of that history and that lineage and continuing the story of Bay Area metal in that we want to create what we see as relevant heavy metal in 2025. And we happen to be from San Francisco. It happens to be still a thriving music community, even though it's a financially challenging place to live. Helpful that, the whole Bay Area, the East Bay encompasses a huge swath of what is the Bay Area, music scene. There's the North Bay too, and then even the South Bay. So like San Francisco itself is a very kind of small part of this larger music community that we see ourselves aligned with.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fucking expensive.
No, I went there
Yeah.
in in December 2021, and
Uh-huh.
great food, but I never seen so many homeless people in my life. So it was a contrast because it's a beautiful city, but then you go 2 blocks and you see a lot of people without homes, and it's sad.
This is true. And the complexities of why that is are far too much for us to get into in this interview. But I will just say, again, San Francisco is a very geographically small place. Our city is only 7 miles by 7 miles. It's very small. So it's very compact. And I think in
Yes.
that way, a lot of our problems become sort of compounded because they're just, there's nowhere to sort of sweep it under the rug or be like, oh, we can just move all of, the things we don't want to see to other parts of the city. It's like that doesn't really exist. You're kind of living on top of each other. And there's good and bad things about it. But yeah, it is ironic that we're one of the richest cities in the world. California is the fifth largest economy in the entire world, and yet we have the largest homeless problem, and we can't seem to fix it. Maybe that has to do with the selfishness of politicians and billionaires, but not my place to say. Who knows?
Yeah, I feel like CNN now. Like, well, but like we talk about different things. So I like the single that you have the music video for Crow, Fear the
Yep.
Night. And the music video, is very metal. So does the singer write most of the lyrics, or does everyone in the band contribute in some way?
Yeah, so it's interesting because Van, our main singer, Scott does some backup vocals, and choruses and things, and but Van is 95%, of the vocalist. He is a native of Greece. He grew up in Athens,
Awesome.
Greece. So, and then he lived in Berlin for like a decade. And so he's not a native English speaker, which for us is very interesting because the other three guys in the band are all we born in and, from America, native English speakers. So what makes it really interesting is Van will write lyrics and sometimes they maybe don't make sense grammatically or just are weird phrasings because he's just, not English is the second language. And so it kind of makes it really cool because it uh sort of forces you to sort of like reconcile like, okay, like maybe this doesn't make sense, but how do we kind of like change it into something that sounds really cool and makes it more unique, right? If it's just like, I mean, dude, I'm originally from Ohio. Like I grew up in northeastern Ohio, Akron, Ohio. Like there's nothing interesting culturally about like my accent or my like speaking or my whatever. I'm just a fucking American. I'm a boring white American. But like Van brings a sort of like more international flavor to it. So like it's a great sort of place where he'll start the lyrics and then we'll all contribute ideas and help refine and be like, try to make a little more sense, but also be uh true to his voice. It should be like him sort of, he's the one who's got to sing these words, so he has to really believe in and feel what he's singing. So that's super important to him as well. But yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, don't tell you sure like you're from Ohio. Yeah, I think in my head, yeah, I guess as a singer saying, if you go, I'm from Ohio, and you say to next to the lady, I'm from Greece, I think the lady's gonna be like, ooh, Greece, yes. Yeah,
Totally.
like
Totally.
Ohio, okay. Well, it helps because I'm from Puerto Rico, so I can say that. And if I'm in Puerto Rico, I'm screwed. But in the States, yeah, people will think, I don't know, like back in the past, when I said I was from Puerto Rico, people would
Yeah.
be like, so do you know Ricky Martin? I'm like, no.
Of course. Yeah, he's my neighbor. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Well, actually, my mother worked with his father, but I never met him.
See? It's a small world. I think that's the theme that I usually come up with is like we're only 1 or 2 degrees of separation from most people. So yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, you never know. You know someone that maybe knows someone. So
Totally.
I like the flow of the record, and I like that the record, has some fun tracks, some darker tracks, which I think makes it enjoyable because with black metal, when it's like super traditional black metal, sometimes I have a hard time like liking really black. It has to be like really good or do something different. But like
Totally.
mix black and vocals with like classic heavy metal, to me that sounds like like something that's cool. Plus the cool production.
That helps a lot. So there's a couple, I feel like there's a couple questions in there. The sequencing of the record was definitely a huge consideration for us. We talked for months about what order to put the songs in, how to make it flow like a an old school heavy metal album that made you want to like listen to the whole thing, like have it be a journey. So we all kind of made our own individual playlists about what we thought the order of the songs should be. And it's fun. It's a fun exercise. And then you sort of get to argue about why you think this needs to be the third song or the fifth song or whatever. And so we were really happy with the way the album sequenced. It's, intentionally 8 songs. It's a very conscious choice. Like we knew we wanted 4 songs per side on the album. We knew we wanted it to be under 40 minutes, fit on one record. Like again, there's these classic sort of like heavy metal touchstones that we're kind of like referring to. And as far as the production goes, everything is recorded and produced in-house. Van, when he was living in Europe, worked in a bunch of recording studios. He's been in the industry for over 20 years and is very experienced. So he knows kind of exactly what he wants in the studio and how he wants it to sound. So we all work together to get our sort of individual instruments sounding exactly the way we want, but he handles all of the mixing, the mastering, all the recording is done by him. So he doesn't sleep, I don't think.
Freak, like he's got it going on, everything with band. But
Totally.
the sequencing is awesome. Like for example, the song "The Mystic," that's like a half-page song, and that's like in the mid, like it would be like the last track on side B.
Yeah,
But then you pick up with the last blade that is like more like a galloping, like Iron Maiden type of song.
totally. Totally. And that again, that was very intentional. We may have all had different playlists that we wanted the album to flow in, but I think we all agreed that The Mystic needed to be song 4. It's that kind of like halfway point where you can kind of take a breath and like reset a little bit and then be able to sort of like journey on to the rest of the record. And for us it's definitely a bit of departure in sound. It's got a lot more like synths on it. It's got a lot more space. It's got a lot more ambiance and a little more soundtracky. We've gotten a lot of comparisons to Conan the Barbarian, and we are definitely Basil Pastorius fans as well. So like
I mean, the band
sound,
Conan.
not the band Conan, but the actual film soundtrack to Conan the Barbarian, which is definitely something we talked about.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, why exactly? I remember that movie because I'm a huge Arnold fan. Yeah,
It's
my
all connected. I mean,
the Arnold boys. But it's
well, I mean, he is a almost a symbol of California in a way, right? So like we all just love 80s action and horror and films that are kind of synonymous with the themes of heavy metal. So like we're very into we watched a lot of Arnold films and we were definitely huge fans of Conan. But for us it was a sort of like direct reference to a more kind of like atmospheric soundtrack kind of vibe that we wanted to have in the middle of the record. So that was the point.
yeah with the I think the comparison really makes sense with that track. But when you talking about sequencing,
Yeah.
imagine like when you think of like classic albums, would you imagine like if like if the Black Album by Metallica started with Nothing Else Matters instead of Enter Sandman,
Yeah.
everyone would that shit off.
And and that's what we talk about. Like we have these conversations all the time because not only is it album sequencing, but you have to think about that in your live set too, right? Like what song do you start with? Because like it's all there's a lot of mental exercises you have to go through to think like, okay, like we want to get people excited, we want them to recognize the song, but like it doesn't need, is it our best song or is it like, it's a very kind of like a
Yeah,
mind you kind of have to play. But yeah, it's amazing what it does if you sequence an album a certain way. But I really do think that, those Metallica records, the first 4 or 5 albums, they were working so hard to create this narrative and this journey and this like have you feel like you were transported somewhere else. By the time you got to the end of Ride the Lightning, you were somewhere else than you when you started that record. And that was, something we would love to attain with our albums.
I think every musician. So you being a drummer when you were growing up, who like which drummer got you like into drumming?
Got me into drumming?
Yeah.
Oh man. I don't know if there was one single drummer. I think that I was very sort of aware because I came up during the MTV, generation of, sorry,
When they actually played music.
when I actually played music videos. So like it's interesting how that sort of shapes your idea of what a drummer is, right? Because like now that I've made a bunch of music videos, like you realize how just it's a set, it's a movie set, like it's all fake. And like yet when you see that as a kid, you're like, oh man, this drummer has like 18 rack toms and like cymbals hanging from chains and like um like so I almost was more influenced by the aesthetic of 80s heavy metal music videos. Like I knew who Lars was, and like I loved Lars and his drumming, but I didn't understand why it was different than like a lot of other drummers. I think though on a whole, I definitely come from the school of John Bonham. Like the first drummer that I realized was like the leader of the band in a way was when I really started to listen to John Bonham. And like it was one of the first drummers where I could hear him almost not over the band, but outside. Like he was separate from what everybody else was doing. It wasn't just keeping time. He would work these fills in and sometimes barely make them on the recordings. And it gave it this sense of excitement and it was thrilling and it was like unexpected. And so like I think yeah, I would have to say John Bonham as generic and obvious an answer as that is. Like it's definitely he was the first one that really kind of brought my attention to the drums.
Don't do that. The young people will they will like, oh, that's such a sick answer.
It's such a vintage
Yeah.
approach to drumming, yeah.
Those 80s drummers, for example, like to this day, I think Def Leppard, their drummer, like what he does with one hand,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's pretty impressive. And I saw him live, and kudos for that band to not kicking him to the curb, like like
He Well, and he was an original member. He was part of the songwriting and all the production of the early stuff. I mean, he was as much a part of the band as
yeah.
anyone. The stuff that he was able to program, I watched a bunch of videos and seen, all these documentaries on like how he programmed all his foot pedals to like trigger all these different sounds. And at that time, that was pretty early technology, and he was able to make it feel seamless. And like Def Leppard is actually a band that we refer to a lot. In this sort of other stratosphere of stadium metal, like they became this band. They were part of the new wave of British heavy metal, but they rose to this like at that time sort of like unbelievable height of becoming like a stadium band. I mean for bands like Ozzy Osbourne and even uh you know I mean, Metallica obviously is another one, but like there weren't a lot of heavy metal bands that were just playing these giant stadiums, and Def Leppard was able to do that because of their
Only
yeah, yeah,
yeah. I think they're terrible now, but back then they when you saw that, yeah, I remember seeing those videos of the like Tommy Lee drumming upside down.
totally. It's hilarious and ridiculous and a spectacle, but like as silly as it is and like as absurd as it is, it's entertaining. It's so entertaining. I'll still watch those videos. They're hilarious. But like it's that thing where like how do you do something to get people's attention and stand out, from the crowd? Like as ridiculous as Tommy Lee is and was, still a great drummer. Like those early Motley Crue records sound I mean, Motley Crue was one of the bands that got me really into heavy metal. Like that was some of my favorite stuff. Great
Oh, you
drummer.
can't touch the early stuff. It's
Yeah.
good. Fun of them now. But so doing music videos like for the
Yeah,
Crow. What, do you enjoy doing music videos? Because
that's a great question. No, we've made our own music videos and it's horrible. So for Crow, we hired a good friend of ours named Marcel. She's a local Bay Area musician and filmmaker. She's actually in a band called Vorlust, and our bassist Avinash plays drums in Vorlust. It also features Sonny Reinhardt from Necrot on guitar.
oh,
Vorlust. Vorlust is an excellent band.
that's like a Yeah, Necron. Yeah, Necron's a very cool band. Yeah.
Very cool band. They're out on tour with Cavalera right now. Which is a great tour. If it's coming near your town, go see Necron and Cavalera. But so Marcel is she makes horror films and she makes music videos, and she's a really good friend of ours. We were having trouble with this video, and I basically called her in a panic and said, Marcel, help. We don't know what the hell we're doing. Like, can you help us with this music video? And she literally took a nugget of an idea. She's like, well, what do you want? And we're kind of like, well, maybe this. And we described something really stupid. And she took that terrible idea and made this amazing video that we never could have envisioned ourselves. And she did it all in like a weekend. Like, she was so organized. She organized all the extras. She has a great director of photography. She had all these you know, like assistants and set builders, and like it was incredible. She did such a good job, and that video turned out better than anything we've ever produced because we just let somebody else do it. I mean, there, like at a certain point, uh, you have to recognize that you're in a band and you're a musician. You should just probably focus on that. Don't You can't do everything. Like, as much as we all want to think we're good at everything and we have the tools, to like, we can make videos, we have, the technology to do it, but doesn't mean you should. So we always want to hire somebody.
Like 10 years ago, I thought I could cook a whole octopus. So what did I do? I watched a YouTube video. And I'm telling you that, and I bought a whole fucking octopus. Not not like and I did it and I cooked it and I didn't cook it right and it was like the most awful meal. I had to throw it away and order a pizza.
Yeah. But is that like what is that like hubris that we've developed that we think we can just do everything? I wonder, is it technology or is it the internet? Like, we have all this information at our fingertips. It makes us think that we can somehow do it all. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know if it's getting older too, but I'm so much more into paying somebody that is a professional. Like, if you're a professional, it's money well spent, like that's what I want. I don't want to figure it out. I want to pay somebody to do it.
If you want to see videos of people suffering, making their own decisions, watch those like programs of people that do like house renovations.
Oh,
fuck up the whole house, and yeah. Then come to they're like we've spent over 100,000 trying to do it ourselves. And I'm thinking, you dumbass, if you would have paid someone, you would have spent 110K and have like the house.
I'm gonna say that probably most of the problem, and I can say this as a man, and especially as a white man, it's probably stubborn men that think they can just do it all and not admitting that they need help, which is something that men are not good at, and I am not good at, and I'm working on getting better at asking for help. Because you know what? I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I can play the drums. I'm a graphic designer for my day job, so I can design beautiful things, and that's about it. Everything else, I'm gonna pay you to do it because I can't do it.
So let's talk about the artwork of the oh my god, this went sideways. Can you see me good?
Yeah, I can see you. Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so yeah, let's so the album, is pretty cool. Like everything in it is pretty cool. But I like talking about like artwork for things. So yeah. See, now
the artwork is the joke with this record that Van is mostly sort of putting forward as a narrative, which is very funny. We had to do everything twice on this album. So we actually made a music video for one of the singles, paid a bunch of money, and ended up not liking it and canned it. And then we went and hired Marcel to do a better music video. We actually hired an artist to create the album artwork. We were not happy with it. We ended up canning it and then going and hiring our friend Adam. This artwork is by Adam Vick. He sings in a band from Seattle, Washington called Dark Meditation.
oh my, I just talked to them 2 weeks ago.
No shit.
Yeah.
Awesome. Such a good band. So they came down, they were on tour in California, and they were playing a show in San Francisco. And a friend reached out and said, "Hey, you guys should play with this band. They're excellent." So we ended up playing a show with them in the city, became fast friends, had Adam do a bunch of artwork for us, and then when we needed him to basically save our asses on the album cover, we hired him to do this album artwork, and he did such an incredible job. So with the front cover, but then he did this big sigil that we use on the back cover, which is also gorgeous. He's just great artist, great dude, killer band. One of those people that, we had mutual friends through the music scene, but it's like as soon as I met him at the show, we were just like, it's like I'd known him forever. Like he's just a great dude. Really love Adam.
Yeah, no, and yeah, he did his artwork for his band too. This is a great artwork. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's a small world.
totally. That's what I'm saying. Like everybody, and this, I realized this, after I'd sort of done a handful of tours, in the US, when you tour enough, you end up literally meeting everybody. Like you meet all the clubs, all the bookers, all the bands, and it's like everybody knows each other. So like it's kind of an incredible thing for us to have that experience, I think for a band who's released two albums during a pandemic, it's been sort of challenging for us to
You
tour. So yeah.
you guys decided to like well, no one though. Like, let's do a band, and then the worst thing imaginable. But yeah, no,
Our first album came out in March of 2020, literally the week that everything shut down. All our tours were canceled, everything was canceled. Our second record we recorded in complete isolation. So like because San Francisco was very strict about, encouraging people not to gather. We were pretty, and it's a long story, but we basically recorded everything completely isolated, and just sent each other tracks and put the second album together, and couldn't tour on that until things started to open up in sort of 2022, 2023. But yeah, we haven't released a record not during a pandemic where we could actually tour. So we're gonna, fingers crossed, we will not incite another pandemic for this album. But
no, no. You
no
opened.
bird flu or anything.
Yeah. So you guys, are you gonna be playing like a show when this album? This album is already released. Like, do you have some shows planned?
Yes, for sure. So we announced our album release show, which will be in Oakland on April the 5th. And that's with two local bands, False Figure, who are a kind of a more like actually goth band, which is kind
I
of cool.
do them as well on the channel.
Awesome. I love it. They're all, and again, like all of the members of that band play in a bunch of other heavy metal bands, like our friends Cartilage. And so it's all connected. And then our friends, Sleep Bomb, are opening, who they do movie soundtrack um music. So like they'll actually take a film like Night of the Living Dead or Metropolis or Nosferatu and write an original score and perform like and screen the film at like a movie theater. Great musicians, great guys and gals. Some of our favorite people in the Bay Area. So we wanted to have them play the show. So they'll do a whole video production. False Figure will play, and then we're gonna headline that show. And that's in Oakland, California at First Church of the Buzzard on April 5th. And then we just announced our first ever East Coast tour. So we're doing the East Coast of the United States in June with our good friends Savage Master from Kentucky. And we get to do all of the East Coast and then I think 3 shows in Canada, which will be great because we've never been to Canada or the East Coast. So that'll be
Yeah,
awesome.
you better go now so you don't pay them tariffs.
Seriously. Yes, we're gonna we're gonna avoid all tariffs and yeah, it's
Hearing the word tariff, because I haven't heard that word in years, and I'm like, what are we like living in Nottingham?
I feel like I heard that word a lot in all my history courses, and I didn't think I was gonna have to deal with it as an adult, and now here we are. Who could have expected it?
If you Ferris Bueller's Day Off, there's a part where the teacher
Yes.
is about economics, and he's like voodoo economics, like anyone, and now
Anyone?
who needs
It's all come back. Yeah.
it's all coming back to us now. But yeah, no, like it's awesome that you guys are gonna be tour. I'm gonna on April 5th. I'm not gonna be in San Francisco. I'm going to be here in Puerto Rico watching Unto Others that are coming here.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Very cool. We've had offers to play Puerto Rico. And I forgot the promoter's name that works there, that does shows there.
Oh, Bloodstain. Yeah,
Bloodstained Entertainment.
yeah,
Yes.
Unto Others. Yeah.
So we've talked to I've forgotten the gentleman's name from Bloodstained, but we've talked to him several times. We really wanted to go. Our good friends from Atlanta, Cloak, have been and
Oh
told
my
us
God, they played here and the day they played, I couldn't go. They're pretty awesome band, Cloak. Yeah.
very awesome, man. They're really good friends of ours. Scott, the lead singer and guitarist from Cloak, is a very close friend, and actually, he will be producing all of our merch, all our t-shirts and all of our merchandise for this tour because he has a merch company in Atlanta and we're playing on the East Coast. So it all again, everything is connected. Everything lines up and yeah, we would love to do Puerto Rico. Similar to what Cloak did. I think they did Puerto Rico and then they went over to Mexico and did some dates around Mexico as well. So yeah, we would love to play anywhere that we haven't played. So
No, I would like if you guys come here, it would be a kick-ass show and I could meet you in person and talk some more shit. Yeah, it would be fun.
hell yeah. Talk
Yeah,
about how old we are.
that's okay. Like we're from the great generation, like the best music. And
I agree. I agree.
well, there's good music now, but like great times, like simpler times. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's been fun chatting with you about Night, the album. So Cultures, it's out now, and I didn't mention the record label, Season of Mist.
Out now on Season of Mist.
Yeah, so you can if you want some vinyl, you can not pre-order because it's already out. Just order it.
Just order it. Well,
Or
that's the best part is like people that pre-ordered the album because the album just came out today. Today's March the 14th. Uh, People that pre-order the record are getting it and have already gotten it, and
yeah,
we actually haven't seen our own record yet because they have to ship us big boxes full of lots of vinyl, and it gets there faster if you just order one. So yeah, it's pretty funny. People are sending us all these photos like, I got my record, it looks awesome. I'm like, cool, I haven't even seen it yet. Like, can you send me one? Because I'd like to see my own record.
yeah, that that's awesome. But yeah, no, that happens. But yeah, it's a very cool, fun album. If you like all the influences that we've been talking the last 30 to 40 minutes, you should dig it. So Patrick, before I let you go, because I know it's still daytime over there.
It
Uh,
is.
yeah, yeah. Well, San Francisco. When I went there, like almost I went in December at 3:30. The sun was going fucking down. I'm like, what the fuck?
People don't realize how far north we are. Like we
Yeah,
are in Northern California. We're very far up. This is not LA. This is some cold, foggy, dark shit, which is why a heavy metal band like Night is perfect for San Francisco.
yeah, totally agree. So, anything you like to say to the fans before we go?
Just thank you for all your support and all of the responses we've gotten to the album thus far have been amazing, especially for the video, Crow Fear the Night. We've got more streams and views on that video than anything else we've ever produced. So I just want to thank everybody that's listened to Night, that's bought a record, bought a t-shirt to come to see us live. We'll be announcing a lot more stuff as the year progresses. Thanks for the support.
Awesome. So, Couchers, there you go. Night, the album is out now. So, until next time, Couchers, the Sector, the Shield Dura couch, and I'll see you right here on the couch. Thank you and goodbye.
Thanks, Hector.
Yeah, thank you, man. See you all later.